folks, Lily here with Spoons Across America, and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be talking about how to follow along with a recipe. Recipes are a super important part of cooking because they help you know how to prepare a dish. They give you the ingredients, the steps, how long to cook things, and other really valuable information for helping you be really successful in the kitchen. Today, I'm going to give you a few tips and techniques for following along with a recipe. We're going to look at a couple recipes. I have one recipe from the Food Explorers Club here for cauliflower soup, and I also have a recipe from the Food Exploration Project Homeschooling. The first step of using a recipe is to read it. Before you begin cooking, before you get your ingredients out, you want to read your recipe from start to finish. This is super important so that there's no surprises when you're cooking. It's no fun to get halfway through baking a cake maybe, and you realize your oven's not on, but it's time to put the cake in the oven. And you would have noticed if you had maybe read the recipe just a little more carefully. Or maybe you are preparing a really delicious pizza and everything's going great and it's almost to the end and you realize you're missing an important ingredient. You don't have any tomato sauce. So you want to make sure that you read your whole recipe so you know everything you need, everything you're going to do for your recipe. It will help to set you up for success. Once you've read your recipe once or even twice, you can dive right in. The first thing on your recipe is going to be the ingredients. This tells you all of the food items you need. It also tells you how much of them you need and if you need to do any pre-preparation of the items before you jump into your recipe. So for this recipe, my first ingredient is 1 tablespoon of olive oil. So I know that I'm going to need a tablespoon measure, so I can measure my olive oil, tablespoon. The second ingredient is going to be 1 medium onion chopped. So there, it's going to tell me how to pre-prepare my ingredient. It's telling me I need to chop it before I start my recipe. So I'd get out my cutting board and knife, chop my onion into little pieces, and it would be good to go when I'm ready to start cooking. For ingredients like vegetables and fruits, in a lot of recipes, it will tell you the ingredients, how you're supposed to pre-prepare them. Chop them, mince them, maybe mash them, so that they're all good to go. So it's important to pay attention to that. The next ingredient on here, I'm going to have vegetable stock. So I'm going to make sure that I have a measuring cup. 3 cups of vegetable stock, I need my 1 cup measuring. So the ingredients, again, will tell you not only what you need, but how much, and if you need to do any pre-preparation. Once you've got all your ingredients ready to go, you're ready to move on to the directions. In the directions section, it's going to tell you step by step everything you need to know to prepare the recipe. You just need to follow the directions, 1, 2, 3, etc., so that everything is prepared in the right order, and you know that you've finished one step before you move on to the next one. Some recipes, where you use the oven, the first step will be preheating the oven, and that's super important. You want to make sure that you turn your oven on at the beginning of a recipe so it is time to heat up, so when you're ready to stick whatever you're cooking into the oven, it's nice and hot. It's like if you were making that cake and you preheated the oven at the beginning, you mix up your cake, get it all ready, then by the time your cake is ready to go in the oven's hot. You can pop it right in. So that's a great first step some recipes will have. If it doesn't have that, you can just dive right into the other steps. Again, following them along, one at a time, until you get to the end. Once you get to the end of the recipe, it's time to eat. Some recipes, like this one from the Food Exploration Project, have a section at the bottom that might say mix it up or change it up. And this is going to give you different tips for how to make the recipe a little bit different, maybe add different spices, different ingredients, or change it in some other way. But even if a recipe doesn't have this section, you can always change it yourself. The best part about cooking is that you get to create food that you like. So if you're making a recipe and you think, I like this, but I would like it even more if it was spicy, I'm going to add some chili flakes into it. Go ahead and do that. Maybe you're making cauliflower soup and you think, I bet this soup would be even tastier if it was cauliflower and carrot soup. So you could take out some of the cauliflower and add in some carrots instead. Again, you're making these recipes work for you. The more you cook and the more time you spend following recipes, the more confident you'll get and the more able you'll be to kind of change things and mix them up and know what will work and what won't. While you're cooking, it's a great idea to taste. That way you can get an idea if you need a little bit more of an ingredient, maybe a little more salt, a little more pepper. Maybe you are changing the recipe so you want to taste as you put in a new ingredient to see how it's tasting in the recipe. When you're tasting, you want to just use a clean spoon, take a taste, and then put that dirty spoon to the side. And get a fresh spoon if you're trying again. Besides that, that's pretty much all you need to know for following a recipe. Again, the most important step is reading the recipe before you start, following each step in order so things don't get confusing, and making the recipe work for you. So taste as you go, try new things, and don't be afraid to get a little bit creative. Cooking is so much fun, and recipes are a great place to start when you're learning how to get around the kitchen and prepare new ingredients. Thanks for joining me, and I hope that these tips and tricks for creating a recipe and following them are going to be really helpful for you getting in the kitchen. Until next time, thanks for joining me.